think it's great to empower women and talk about it.
I want to have an honest conversation.
We have to give ourselves a break, and we have to take a breath.
Like, I'm not perfect, but there isn't much I won't try.
Some days it works,
Some days it doesn't.
CNG Media.
All right, welcome to episode 5 of Real Moms, Real Talk with me, your host, Cathy Moyano. Today's episode topic is listening to your gut, and my guest today is my good friend Dana, who came into my life in a weird way, I should say. Mm-hmm. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Dana is a business owner, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But we're going to talk about today as far as having a career, balancing that with our family, balancing friends, husbands, kids, and everything that comes along with that. So thank you again for being here. So let's go back a little bit, and give us a little bit of a background on your college, what you did when you got out of college, and kind of how quickly maybe you had kids.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a couple minutes.
So I grew up in Kearney with you.
I know.
And then I wound up moving to Massachusetts for high school, which was just insane.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I realized I desperately wanted to come back to New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to Rutgers.
Nothing like Jersey, right?
That's right.
Nothing
and
like
take
Jersey.
the girl out of Jersey, but can't take Jersey out of her. So I came back. I went to Rutgers, and I really enjoyed my time there. I had
What'd
no
you major
idea.
in?
I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I decided.
Like any other college kid, I feel
actually,
like, right?
That's not true. I started. I was going to be an interpreter for the United Nations.
Oh.
That's what I was going to do. I was
Okay.
very good at languages. And as it turns out,
Reaching for the stars from the
Reaching for the
get-go. I
stars.
love that.
That's right.
Love that.
but I was going to major in economics and political science.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was going to minor in Japanese because I lived in Japan when I was 15. So I failed economics, had to take the summer class.
It is a little dry.
I got an A in Japanese, but then went home for 2 weeks or whatever the college break was, and I could not speak a lick of it when I got back. So that was dropped. And then political science wasn't for me. So I wound up majoring in psychology and communications.
Okay.
So I was going to be in public relations. And then I thought, no, I don't want to just write press releases to make people look better. And I really had no idea what I wanted to do. So I wound up going into retail. I worked for J. Crew in their stores. Sorry, I worked for Banana Republic in their stores.
Okay.
And then my first corporate job was at J. Crew.
Oh.
And, I was a little planner for their catalog. Back in the day, the J. Crew catalog was like sacred. So that's what I did. It was like before the internet, really. In like 1999.
You were in the city.
Yeah, I worked in the city.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Which
I was
sounds glamorous, right?
it's-
and sexy and
it's horrendous. But I graduated college in 1999. So, I was at J. Crew corporately in 2001. So it was a tough year. I was in the city on September 11th. And, talk about something that's not glamorous. It was just kind of insane.
Yeah.
But I loved working in retail. I worked in retail for I worked in retail for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Starting from when I was like 15 years old,
Yeah.
working in Massachusetts at a store. So that was my career. I spent a long time there and I loved it. But
And you had hopes of climbing, let's say, the corporate ladder?
Yes, that was the goal. And my girlfriend and I just Wednesday were talking about it. She's still in retail, and it's like we were gonna run all these companies.
Yeah.
We hadn't arrived until we were gonna be the CEO.
Yeah.
And then I think that I quickly started to learn that that's really not the trajectory that I wanted my life to go down. And I really think that's really when I met my husband now.
You met in the city, like while you...
We did. We actually did meet in the city.
Okay.
The big joke was when Dana lived in the city, she only met guys from Long Island and New Jersey. And then when I lived in New Jersey, I only met guys from Long Island and New York City. So I was living in New York City.
Yeah.
I met a guy from Jersey through mutual friends from Rutgers, and we dated for 4 years.
Okay.
We moved in together pretty early on, but we were together for 4 years before we got married.
Okay.
And then I had kids. I was 6 months pregnant
So
on our 1 year anniversary.
Dating, you're still in corporate. You have your first child, you're still in corporate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I was at Coach at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got married at Ann Taylor, And then I left Ann Taylor. I was actually laid off from Ann Taylor right before I was about to have our first child.
Okay.
And that was a little crazy. I wound up going through what would have been my maternity leave and a couple months after, and then I went to work at Coach with a, probably like a 6-month-old. So it was kind of crazy.
So he was a daycare baby or family watched or?
No, he was a daycare baby. Yep. And that was
Coach in the city. So you're trudging into the city.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And we lived in Clifton. That was really convenient for us. And I'm saying daycare, but it's a little bit of a hybrid for us. My husband's aunt, she watched people's kids. In fact, one of your neighbors, she watched all of their kids.
Oh.
And so it was nice because she was our family, but she ran a daycare out of her home.
That's great. That sounds like my first too. I did that too. It was not a typical daycare. He started out he went to a woman. And my best friend's daughter went there too.
Yeah, it was
nice.
nice.
A little nicer. They got a little, not nicer, I should say, a little bit more intimate.
Yes.
They had home cooked meals, but you're still dropping them off at 7:30.
Yes.
If not earlier.
Right.
And picking them up at 6.
Right. Yes.
And you did that for how long?
I did that for, let's see. I probably did that for like 3 years. And then.
So before we get into the next.
Yeah.
So think back to that moment, because to me, when I think back to my first, and I did the same thing, although my job was not as cool as yours.
Oh yeah, so cool.
But I cried more so because I felt very overwhelmed with the pressure of like, what am I doing here? Like, I have 2 hours with my child. By the time I get home, plus especially when they're infants, right? They ain't sleeping. I mean, they're in the carry thing, right? Yeah. And even as he got a little older and then transitioned into an actual daycare, because then I think, I felt he needed
social interaction. Same.
I was always unsettled. Yeah. Always nervous.
Oh, yeah.
Always like, this doesn't add up for us women.
It's a lot. I felt the same. And I remember distinctively, I almost have like PTSD when I go down Route 3. I remember being on the bus on the way home. And at this point, Frankie, my son, he was at, a preschool, right? So I guess he was like 2.5 years old. And I remember like they closed at 6.
Yes, mine too.
Now they stayed, but you had to pay by like the minute.
Yes.
It's insane. So I remember there was an awful snowstorm and I remember being on the bus just watching, my phone and like the minutes are ticking by. And at that point, my husband, he couldn't get there for some reason. Oh, because he plowed snow. So that's why he couldn't get there. It was snowing. And I just was so stressed out.
Yes.
And I knew that was the first sign for me where I was like, this is off. But it went on for a long time. Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. I just really was sort of like, I guess this is what it's
the norm
supposed
is.
to be.
Supposed to be like.
And I didn't want to talk about it a lot because I felt very, I felt like I was a bad mom or something.
Yes.
It was weird.
Yeah, right. Because you have this great job.
Yeah.
Pays well. You got this house, but it's just not right.
Well, I felt like ungrateful.
Yes, but right.
Yeah.
So you don't talk about it.
Right.
You keep it all in.
Yeah.
And you keep moving forward like we're almost trained to do. And I can see why some women break. Yeah.
It was a year later, though. So that was, it was snowing. Again, I remember that. And then I remember I started working there in like, I think it was the spring. So I'd gone through the summer and now it's the winter and I'm having these feelings. And then I remember going to lunch with one of my girlfriends. And I will say that when I was at Ann Taylor, I made first of all, I really learned what it takes to run a retail organization. I think that's lost these days. But I also had a very small group of women who were very, very supportive. And they were slightly older than me in that they had kids.
Or friends?
Yeah, coworkers who became like my family.
Yep.
And I remember going to lunch outside. We were at Cook Shop. And my girlfriend, Danielle, she said to me, she asked me point blank, like, was I okay? I guess I must have seemed off. And I just started crying. And we were having this beautiful lunch on the sidewalk,
Yeah.
And I was like, no. And she was so awesome because she said to me, I just want you to know that if you throw if you throw the toy across the room at your baby, as long as it doesn't hit your baby like intentionally and you're just throwing it in the direction, you're still a good mom.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and she kind of gave me a few more insights like that. And I remember like taking this like deep sigh of relief. And interestingly, as then I continued on in my retail career and the more, successful I became in the ladder, rungs got higher and higher. I remember passing those like words of wisdom on to
the
younger
moms.
women who were like
Yes.
starting to go through this.
Yes.
And it was so, I don't know, it was like so cathartic for me because I thought.
Because you give them hope.
I really did. But I think,
Yes.
in the beginning, they're like, you're so excited and you're pregnant. And you never think that day is going to come where you're going to feel so sad or overwhelmed or like mad at your baby for
Yes.
crying or like, and I think that kind of saying it before it happened really helped them sort of prepare. And they didn't feel like shame or sadness or angst. And a lot of them came back.
There should not be any shame.
Yeah,
But that's not what society does. We
No.
are judged and criticized and on everything we
Yeah.
do or say or
But
not
I also
do.
think that we do it to ourselves too, Like I very much believe in like the power of story, and I think that you can change whatever the story is in your head, like it can be changed.
It can be changed. I agree.
And I think that talking helps.
Yes, but I think that's also more so now it seems to be okay.
Yeah.
It's not such a faux pas
Right.
to be talking about those kinds of
Yeah.
feelings that maybe women our age
Yeah.
and even women before us were
Oh, for
not told or felt that it's okay to talk about those things.
Yeah, I was very lucky to have had that. It was really two of them that had kids at that point.
Yeah.
And just I feel like their raw honesty about like how
Helps.
crazy the emotions can be
Yes.
really did help. And
Yeah.
if I used to think back and be like, if I could just help somebody
Yeah.
Not feel that way for like, I don't know,
10 minutes.
2 days
Yeah,
prior
yeah.
to what they were going to feel it before, I was really pleased with that. It was great.
So let's fast forward a little bit. So now before you were about to say how you were on year 3, I think you were saying,
Yeah.
and then something clicked. Were you now pregnant with your second at that time? Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was interesting. I think it was actually 2 years because I worked at Coach for 2 years. And I began to really realize that the years were already quickly starting to pass me by.
Yes.
One of the last phone calls I received at Coach was from my son and my husband. And to your point, like, kids go to bed early, and I was big into the sleep training, which is why I think my son is just so smart and tall. But he called me and he was crying because he wanted to know why I wasn't going to be home again to read to him. And it was like
That
10 o'clock at
stings.
night. Like he would not go to bed, and finally my husband was like, okay, we'll call mommy. And I was like, I need to take my life back. So at that point, that was the first kind of aha for me. So I wound up getting a job in New Jersey.
Still in retail?
Still in retail. I worked at Babies R Us. And I have to tell you, I had a fabulous time at Babies R Us I worked there for just over 5 years. And it was one of the best experiences I had had. Being closer to home was really helpful. It gave me a little bit more of a balance. But again, I laugh because I just wanted to be like the retail associate in the store to like just go and fold the clothes and
So
come
it
home.
sounds like-
But I kept becoming like the manager.
Yes.
So I just kept climbing up.
So, right.
So I got to Babies R Us and just wanted to like be.
So it sounds like
Climbed. Yeah.
you wanted both.
Oh, I definitely wanted
Right?
both. Until I had it.
I want both now too. I want it all.
Yeah.
But I think that all comes in stages, and it's
Yeah.
Because I was that way too. The job I had when I had Michael, I went back to right after 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I could still remember that day till this day. Then I had my
Sort of like a badge of honor too. You're like, oh yeah, I'm doing it. Like, look at me. And then all of a sudden you're there and you're like crying.
as I'm driving to work. I'm like, what? Then I had my second, and I remember I was big into journaling at that point in my life. I remember and then the company I worked for was not a big company, but there was a little bit of movement, upward movement. So I did a little climbing, and there's needs of you in a certain level at your job, and I was, I had to work, financially,
Sure.
But I remember coming home when it was my second child went back to work. I came home. Michael's, I think 4 maybe now. Nicholas was a baby, and I literally had like an hour and a half with him. Put him down, did what I had to do, and then it's still, it's the cleaning, it's this, and getting ready for tomorrow, because you're never just in that moment.
No.
You're worried about breakfast in the morning and lunch, and do you have this, and it's a ShopRite trip at 9 o'clock at night, and like you're always on.
Yeah, the logistics of being a mom, as I can say.
We are CEOs of life.
Yes.
Yeah. And I remember my last sentence was, something has to give, exclamation, exclamation, underline, underline. I'm going to say, I would have to go back, but I'm going to say maybe 8 months, 9 months later, oops, I'm pregnant with my third.
Yeah.
And I lost my job.
I think that's so interesting, though, because I think that you're right. Like, something had to give, and it's almost like...
Because I wouldn't have quit, because I loved working.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved it.
But that, I think...
love making my own money.
Yeah, but getting laid off for me, too, just when I had my son, like, I really think back to that now. And it's 14 years ago, right? Like, almost 15 years ago. And I always feel like the universe is slightly nudging us.
Yes,
and
that was my nudge.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It really is like a weird thing. And I remember, so at Babies R Us, here I was like, okay, I was great. Like, I was doing it
You're
all.
doing it.
And I'm home right
Yeah.
now. I'm in New Jersey, except then I needed to travel. Like, I was, again, so glamorous. I was traveling to China for 2 weeks. I was going to Italy. I was going to Portugal. I was going to Boston, flying to California. We had to go to, Miami. I mean, I was going everywhere. Like, to the point where at the preschool that my son ultimately wound up graduating from, the moms didn't even know that I existed.
Who are you?
I mean, I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
the people who are my friends now, they knew Frank before they knew me. They had no
bothered
idea.
you?
No.
No.
Because, listen, my husband also had a career change. He sold his landscaping business to his partner, and he bought a new business. And it was right after 2008. Like, financially, the world
Was crumbling.
was crumbling.
Yes, I remember.
And, and he'll tell you this, like, I supported our family. Like,
So you had that additional pressure.
I did. And he never made me feel that way. But, you're newly married. Now you're about to have a baby.
Yep.
Now I lose my job. He's got a new job. It was a lot going on. But again, I still
Your
feel
story's
like...
very similar to mine.
Yeah, I still feel like the universe was
Yeah.
like nudging me to do something different. And I had always been like, ooh, maybe I'll get into like car wrapping. I was like looking up every cockamamie idea not to go back to corporate America.
Yes.
And then
Me too.
finally I just had to. And I went to Coach.
So you went back.
Well, that's when I went to
okay,
Coach. And then
okay.
that's when I went to Babies R Us.
So you're at
but
Babies
I felt like I
R
was
Us,
winning,
Life is good. You're kind of
Yeah, sure.
managing everything.
Yeah.
But something must have happened for you to...
Yeah, to leave.
To leave, take the leap. Were you not personally satisfied?
Well,
Was it...
it was a little... I feel like the universe was nudging me.
Okay.
I was so high within the corporate organization that my boss's boss was the CEO, right? So I knew a lot, and the company was definitely in peril. And I realized once I was showing up to work and I was giving meaningful suggestions that could really change the trajectory of the business, and I wasn't being heard, it wasn't because my ideas were bad. It was because we were so far gone. And I realized, wow, I am not successful here because I cannot control what is happening here.
Right.
The company was just too big, right?
Yep.
And now I don't feel successful at home. Like, there is something wrong. Literally, same thoughts. Something has to give here.
Yeah.
And I remember it was May. It was a weekend in May. And it was Mother's Day weekend. It was like a Friday night, though. And I came home from work, and I was in a bad place.
Yeah.
And I wound up getting to the point where I just said to my husband, I can no longer be caught in this circular reference.
Yeah.
Like, Excel, where you're like, why is the formula not working? And he looked at me, and, this is years later, 5 years later. So what was it, like 2014 or something? And our daughter was only like a year and a half years old. Maybe she was like 2. And he was like, you should just quit. You should go in on Monday and quit. And then, it all starts. But we want to buy a beach house, and we want to do this.
Yep.
And we want going out to dinner, and we want to go on vacation. And then he looked at me. He's like, we'll figure it out. He goes, if you need to get a job doing anything to support our family, and I know that you're going to do that.
Right.
But I think that you should quit your job, and you should make your side hustle, your actual passion project, your real job.
So you were dabbling at that point a little bit in interior design?
Always.
Doing things for friends and family type of a thing?
Yep.
Or even around your own house, I should say?
Well, we built our house.
Okay.
So that was like my first foray into building something actually.
Okay.
Like making those different types of selections. But then I was like consistently doing things for, like my aunt's house was damaged in Hurricane Sandy. My mom had done some work on her home, you know, and I was like, I'm very good at this. And I can run a business. I mean,
Well, you've had enough experience.
Well, when I
throughout the
left
years.
Babies R Us, I was running like a $750 million business.
Yeah.
You know, with like
So
80
this is
people.
like a piece of cake.
I was like, I can totally do this. Until then, you have to do it. But yeah, he was so supportive. He just said, you should go in and quit. And again, that was a Friday night. Saturday was like a day of crying, you know. It was like a disaster. And Sunday was Mother's Day. And my son Frankie was, you know, I think he was maybe in like kindergarten or something. And no, he wasn't. He was in second grade. And he goes, Mom, me and Alex started cleaning out the playroom. And I was like, oh, you know, why are you cleaning out the playroom? He said, because it's going to be your office. You're going to need somewhere to work. They emptied out all. I could cry right now talking about it. They started emptying out all the toys from the playroom.
I love that.
And to this day, I had hand painted the floor when I was pregnant with our daughter, and it's still painted, even though I have it covered with a rug because, you know, now I'm like more sophisticated, and it's not a playroom. But they took out all their toys. And that was it. And I'm like, okay, now I have to do this.
You have to do it.
Had to do
and
it.
here you are. So
Here I am.
Now, how long have you had this? What is the name of your business?
The name of my business is Plume Interiors, and I formed my LLC in June or May of 2017. So this May it will be 7 years.
Wow! Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do you remember your first official client?
I do. I do. So the business started to crumble at Babies R Us, and some of the people who I had worked for were looking elsewhere for other jobs. And it's tough, right? And I knew the position they were in. You're trying to reassure people like everything's going to be okay to not cause this like mass chaos.
Yep.
But it was just extremely stressful to be authentic.
Yeah.
Right? You know, that's a big thing for me.
Yep.
So someone who I'd worked for, his name was Paul. He was looking for a life change as well. So he moved his family from Kinnelon, where they were living, to Texas. But they lived in this big house, and I guess he was trying to sell it. And the real estate agent was like, we can't sell this house like it is.
Yeah.
And his wife had no interest in, you know, really trying, or maybe she couldn't. I don't know what it was, but she was such a lovely person. Their kids were great. And he said to me, okay, I'm officially hiring you to stage this house. Now, Cathy, the house was like, I don't know, 6,000 square feet, maybe
That's
bigger.
big house. Yeah.
So I didn't have anything, and I just was like, we're going to do it. Like, great. So the realtor and I met, and she wound up telling me what she found were the problems. And I said, okay, well, we can fix some of this. I came up with what I thought was a realistic budget. I told him how much it would cost. And I was with the realtor, and she was like, if you do this and you invest this money, then you will get this. And we did it, and he sold his house for like $450,000 more.
That's amazing.
Than was being offered to him prior. You know, and I look back at those pictures now, I'm like, oh God, it was so bad, like what I did.
I know.
But it really wasn't. It was so good. And
at that time.
It was great.
It was great.
And he was so thankful, and it was really what I needed.
Yeah.
But he was my actual boss. Like, this was a person who, he had a bad
Do you
rap
feel
for a while.
validation?
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But the fact that he had such trust in me at work, and then I thought it was just work related.
Right.
But the idea that he actually just really had that trust in me as a human.
Right.
Because now I wasn't at that job that he knew I was good at.
So now
he
he's going to
just
see
knew
the
that I
other
was
side
good.
of you.
He
Yeah.
just knew that I was good, that I had a good work ethic, that I worked hard, I was tenacious, I was going to get it done. And that was
And
that was very validating.
That goes a long way.
Oh, I mean, just in life. Yeah.
In life, period.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really awesome. But he was the person, I think, who really said to me, like, you can do anything.
You can do it.
You know, people have always been very supportive of me. I think I've been very fortunate that way, but it was him.
That's great.
Paul Winslow, man.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. And he's awesome. Yeah.
You still keep in touch with him now?
You know, not as frequently.
Yeah.
Probably after this, I'll send him
Yeah.
some kind of note and just say, hey, I was just talking about you today. Thanks for believing in me 7 years ago. But yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes it does just take that one person.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Well, listen, I had some pretty bad experiences right after that. with clients. And again, you know me well enough. Like, I believe that the bad things that happen to you in life, like, you can probably learn more from.
Absolutely.
You know, or like, I used to watch people show up in corporate meetings and act a certain way. And I would watch them and think to myself, like, that's exactly how I don't want to act.
Right.
You know, like, don't emulate that. And so I think that having that really validating experience and then some really poor experiences right after each other, I think that really kind of said to me, okay, this is what is acceptable.
Yeah.
And
so now you feel you have more of that balance with your work and kids.
Yeah. Yes. So, so because I was so out of it with my kids,
you enthralled yourself in.
Right. So some of us have been very involved in the homeschool association, right? So I finally was like, wow, I get to do these things.
Yes.
Right? That's a big thing I tell myself. When I'm feeling frustrated, like, oh my God, who needs me now?
I did the same thing, signed up for every single thing.
Oh, I know. Hello. You're the one who then was like, here, Dana, you're the one who made me do it. You did.
I did. Well, because you were the right person to do it.
And I
but
I
even
have
before
done that too.
even when I was still in Kearney, like, I got laid off and I'm like, okay, I am going to be the best PTA mom ever.
Oh, yeah, because if we're going to do something,
we're going to do it.
If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right.
Yeah.
I know. But I did. So now
And then I was like,
I'm struggling, though, a little bit right now because I think I've been so focused on my kids. You know, my son's about to go to high school. I know this is like a big thing for you. I know you've had this transition earlier, but like, my son's about to go to high school. I feel like I'm not really worrying about him as much anymore.
Well,
my daughter's
a different worry. It's a different worry.
Yes, it is. But like, in my head, like, he's going to be fine in life. Like, I really feel that way. You know, my daughter's about to go into middle school, so she's like in that weird sassy tween age. And
so
I know,
fun.
it's so fun. So, and I'm trying to like cut out alcohol. It's like, how many things are you doing here at once, Dana? But I have finally.
It's the only way to do it.
I know.
That's all I know how to do.
I know.
Let me put 12 things on my plate and try to figure out how to do the 12. I'm trying to figure out what that is about me that I need to have. Like, it's not enough for me to be a mother, have a full-time job. Let me reinstate my real estate license. Not enough. Let me start a podcast because I think I'm having a midlife crisis. I'm not sure what's going on here.
This is way better than going out like partying, though. I'm like super proud of you for choosing a good path. Really.
I mean, I don't know where it's going, but it's going to go somewhere. But yeah, I'm working on that. I'm working on where's this drive coming from, and I don't knock or put down any other woman or mother that just, let's say, loves being a stay-at-home mom, because you know what? Kudos to you.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a lot tougher job than it is to go to work. Because, I mean, let's be real. You're dumping your kid wherever, your daycare,
there's
nanny.
There's a seat for every ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own thing, right?
Right.
So I get what you're saying. You're not, it's just not necessarily for you. I think for me, I am realizing I need to dedicate this is how my therapist tells me I need to talk to myself. I don't need to do anything. I get to make the choice, and I would like to dedicate more of my time to my actual business.
Yes.
Because I'm not really applying myself. I really can't even imagine if I applied myself to my job, you know, but I have a good business background, so I'm like, I don't really need to. It just comes easy.
That's great, though.
I know, but like.
But maybe it's not.
I really want to do more. I want to do
but
more.
But what I'm learning too, because I'm just a few years older than you, things come when they're supposed to come to you. So maybe now you're building your base, let's say, in your foundation, right?
Yeah.
Maybe when your daughter is a freshman in high school and your son is a little older, maybe that will be the time for you to blow up. Because I know you're going to.
Well, I could.
You've probably blown up so far.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're not done.
No.
And I'm sure you maybe have dreams and plans of doing more that necessarily might not deal with interior design.
Right.
You know?
I don't know yet.
Because you did throw a fabulous holiday party.
Thank you. Well, you know, that was my first. I've always been this creative person. I was the kid who grew up doing, like, rearranging my room literally every 2 weeks. So I know how furniture fits and how it's supposed to fit and how it doesn't fit. I also was the kid who'd never played, like, bank or school. I played retail store. So I find it very interesting that I spent the first half of my life in retail, and now the second half of my life, I think, is going to be in interior design.
Yeah.
But I thought I wanted to be an event planner or a caterer.
Oh, that's my
I know
my
it is.
dream.
I know, but their hours are terrible.
Their hours are terrible, but that's the one thing, because I used to be a meeting planner for pharma. And then when I got laid off from the agency I was working at and pregnant, and I sat on the couch and I'm like, what am I going to do now? I can't just sit here and be pregnant and actually enjoy the pregnancy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, I don't know how to do that. So I sat a little, enjoyed as much as I could, had the baby. She's on one boob. The kids are running around.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like, oh, it's just beautiful. What's next? Because that lasted a little longer than I thought it was going to last, a little bit, because I was probably scared. Maybe I wanted it a little bit more. But then I'm like, I'm going to start a wedding company. I'm going to be a wedding planner. That's what I did. Broke as shit. Antonio was in transitioning from one job to whatever, similar to you. And I'm like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I did it. My first wedding was in Tulum, Mexico. Ask me what I know about an international wedding. Jack shit.
And you did it?
I went with, she wanted, not she wanted, I probably talked her into having orchids as the centerpiece. But I found faux orchids.
Yeah, I was like,
that
do orchids grow in Mexico?
So real.
Yeah.
That I got stopped in customs.
Yeah, I was like, there's got to be a problem here.
Not thinking,
Yeah.
should I have I was afraid to ship them, so I packed. I mean, I'm by myself. There's no J-Lo, like,
Yeah.
there's no assistant. There's
I know.
nobody. I get stopped. I'm like, sweating. What am I going to do here? Talked myself out of it, made it, did it, booked another wedding from there, booked another. And
I never knew this. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I knew like the
Yeah, I
party
did
planning, but like Tulum, Mexico. Okay.
yeah, that was my first wedding.
Dude, if you're gonna do it, do it.
I mean,
right.
if you're going to do it, do it.
But you pulled it off though. That's how I felt about the house.
I pulled it off.
I know.
You pulled off your party. If there is one passion that maybe I'll get back to at some point in my life, it will be event planning in some capacity or another.
Yeah.
Not wedding planning. I think I've been so removed from that industry, and there's just so much now fashion that goes along. It's not, fashion is not my
Okay.
thing. Planning, time management, staging, that's my thing.
Okay.
You know?
Well, hey, those are good things for me to know too. I always like to know where I
did
can tap
great.
into something.
I walked into your house. I looked over at my husband. I'm like, oh, this is such a Cathy party.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
was great.
All right. Well, listen, I do not want to go down that path, but I know who I can tap into if I do need something, because I'm realizing that there are parts of my job, and this is interesting too, that I have no interest in.
Yes.
And at corporate, where was I? We were at Coach, and we did this whole exercise as an executive team, and it was like skill and interest level, and it was like a chart, and it had all these different things that we were responsible for, and we had to put cards down, and it was like high skill, low interest, and you started to put the puzzle together, and I was like, oh God,
Eye-opening.
I hate my
Yeah, there's
job.
certain things I have no interest in doing. I know what I'm good at.
Yeah.
But I think that comes with age.
But you can farm so much stuff out, and I used to feel
can,
so,
yes.
I used to feel so
We gotta
guilty
do it
about
all,
it.
yes.
And now, in business, I'm like, I don't know how to do that, and I don't really want to know how to do it. But I know somebody that I can pay to do it,
Yep.
and that's okay, because then I can be my best self doing something else.
Correct.
And I am realizing that in my actual life, there are so many things like that. And then if I want to try to learn something new, it's actually something that I'm genuinely interested in doing. I think that's so nice, the luxury of being able to have that freedom mentally.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
been like a big thing for me recently.
Because, my friend, since you are approaching of age.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of things happen now that you've reached.
Yeah.
Can I say your name?
Yeah, I'm 46.
You're 46.
And I love
Because that's
it.
when it started to happen for me. That's when I've started to pay attention to things about myself. I'm like, the kids are a little older, right?
Yeah.
Their needs are a little different. I'm like, looking at Antonio, I'm like, our relationship is changing. Everything's it's shifting.
Yeah.
Shifting.
And we were talking about this a little bit before, but like shifting, like I've finally begun to, it was like when I was a coach and I was like, the way that this person is speaking to me is not acceptable.
Correct.
And that was, 2012, right? So in 2012, 12 years ago. I can't even do math. Yes, I ran a multi-$100 million business. Can't do math. But 12 years ago is when I started to be like, no, that's not acceptable.
Yeah.
And now all of this time, I have finally gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't need to surround myself with things that are not authentic.
Yes.
With people that don't support me. I'm not saying people need to agree with me, but
that's a
if
difference.
you don't, I'd rather you just tell me, right?
Yeah.
Like Frank, my husband, my children, right? Like we don't need to agree on everything.
Correct.
But I want to have an honest conversation at all junctures of my life.
I agree. And I think that's, I love how, I guess we came back, or you, I should say, I think you came into my life right at that time. And then there was a book that you recommended to me.
Yeah.
You're a Badass by Jen Sincero, which love her.
Yeah.
I read all of her books. And yeah, it's that transition that you're starting on.
Yeah.
I'm a little further along, and I hope to have conversations with women that have passed this stage.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited about it.
It's interesting for me though, because I think I went through it and now I'm going through something different. And it was interesting to me because
it's more about you now.
It is.
And it's okay.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Me too.
Like I don't feel guilty about it.
I don't either. I don't feel guilty about it because I know I give 100% to my kids. I give 100% to my job, no matter what that job is.
Yeah.
My husband, friends, family.
Yeah.
But along the way, you give and give and give and give. And then I've realized during some times I'm on the back burner. So I'm now putting myself on the front burner.
Well, that was our conversation. I mean, what was it? 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Maybe 4. I don't know. But I remember seeing you. I think we were at like a football tailgate.
I think, Mm-hmm.
And you were just off to me.
Yeah.
Right. And, we don't see each other all the time, even though we live like around the corner from each other. But our kids are different ages. We have,
Different
some
circle of
friends that are overlap. But it was so obvious to me, I think because I had come through this whole like imposter syndrome of myself.
Yes.
That when I saw you, I was like, something's off. And I actually spoke to Antonio about it. And I was like, is she all right? And he was like, yeah, he was trying to, I think he was trying to be honest, but really still protect you. And then finally I just, I said it. And then I saw you again. It was at that project graduation, something at the Brook Tap House. And that was when I was like, this is the book. And you and I had like it was like an odd place to have like a real conversation.
Yes.
But it wasn't a huge group. And I remember that. And I felt just like, too. I really hope she can take something from it.
I read that book right away.
I know. And I was so happy because I didn't know what you were going to do with it.
And then, it's so funny. There's there's a family member actually on my husband's side that I talk to often, or, she sent me that same book the following birthday. Because I also have great conversations with her, But yeah, that book was life-changing.
It's crazy.
But that change doesn't happen overnight.
No.
It's a slow progress. And I think that's one of the things I had to learn on. It's not like, well, I'm going to start a business tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and it's like, poof.
Yeah, but right.
It's a slow change. So I'm so grateful that, I'm grateful for you recommending that book. I'm grateful that you came into my life when you did.
Yeah.
And I think women do need to support each other, not judge.
Yeah, no.
Support each other.
Yeah.
Even if you, like you said, you don't have to understand, you don't have to agree, just be there.
Yeah, because this is it. We get one chance at life.
Yeah.
And listen,
and sometimes
it's
hearing
hard.
the truth is hard.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the times people, they really struggle with being honest with each other.
Yes.
That's not hard for me anymore. It was, but I finally have gotten to the point where I'm like, if you really know me, you know that I'm
genuine.
Yeah, I'm genuine, and I have your best interest
at heart.
At heart, and sometimes I'm going to tell you something because I really think it's a thing that will be able to help you. And I know that sometimes people don't love that, but I really try.
Me too.
And
you got to
so
continue
happy.
to stay true to yourself.
Yeah, I think it makes me a better mom. It makes me a better friend, and That's all we got, kid.
That's all we got. So I am here for you now,
Yeah.
since you're entering this little transition stage.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the success in the world with your
Thanks.
interior business. Good luck to your son.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank
and
you.
I hope you come back.
I'm happy to come back.
Maybe we'll have another mom on here. We could talk about other things. I'd love to have you back because I do enjoy talking to you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
I'm always here for you.
I know. Thanks,
Thank
Dane.
you.